the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar without a mint mark. How much is it worth? Is it rare? And what makes it valuable? Let's find out. The Kennedy half-dollar was first minted in 1964, just months after President John F. Kennedy's assassination. It quickly became a collector favorite and remains one of the most iconic U.S. coins. In 1973, the U.S. Mint produced over 64 million Kennedy half-dollars in Philadelphia. These coins don't have a mint mark. Unlike earlier years, the 1973 version was not released into general circulation. It was only made for mint sets. That makes it harder to find in good condition today. So what's a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar without a mint mark worth today? In good condition, it's typically worth about $2 to $3 USD, just slightly above face value. But in uncirculated or mint state condition, it can fetch $5 to $20 or more, depending on its grade. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If your 1973 half-dollar is graded MS-66 or higher by a professional grading service, it could be worth up to $100 or more. Super high-grade examples, like MS-67, have even sold for over $300 at auction. To get the best value, keep your coin in a protective holder and avoid handling it too much. If you think it's in excellent condition, consider sending it for grading. That's where the real value kicks in. So, while the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar without a mint mark isn't extremely rare, it can definitely be worth something, especially in top condition. Got one at home? Let us know in the comments. Next up, the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar without a mint mark. Is it valuable? And what's it worth in today's market, even in dirty or circulated condition? First, a quick history. The Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964, just months after President John F. Kennedy's assassination. The 1967 version was struck during a time when the U.S. was phasing out silver coins. But this one still contains 40% silver. That means even in rough or circulated condition, this coin has some intrinsic value due to its silver content. But what about collector value? Well, here's the deal. In 1967, no U.S. coins had mint marks due to efforts to reduce coin hoarding. So if yours has no mint mark, that's normal. Now, for a coin in dirty or typical circulated condition, collectors call this a low-grade coin usually graded between G4 and VF20. These are not rare, but thanks to that 40% silver content, they still carry value. As of April 2025, a 1967 Kennedy half-dollar in average dirty, circulated condition is worth around $3 to $5, based mostly on the current silver price. Better-conditioned coins can be worth more, and uncirculated ones might fetch $7 to $15 or higher. But in general, don't expect a fortune unless it's a rare error coin or in pristine shape. So, while it might not buy you a vacation, the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar still holds some value, especially in bulk, or if silver prices rise. If you've got a bunch sitting in a drawer, they're definitely worth more than face value. Next up, the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar with the Denver mint mark, also known as the 1972D. Specifically, we're talking about one in extra fine condition. Is it valuable? Let's find out. First minted in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy, the half-dollar quickly became a collector's favorite. But by 1972, these coins were no longer made of silver. They were clad in copper and nickel. The 1972 D. Kennedy half-dollar had a montage of over 141 million. That's a lot of coins, which means most are not especially rare. However, condition always plays a big role in value. In extra fine condition, Your 1972 D coin will show light wear on the high points of the design, but all major details remain sharp and clear. So, what's it worth? As of today, a 1972 D Kennedy half-dollar in extra, fine condition typically sells for around $1.25 to $2 on the collector's market. Not a fortune, but it's more than face value. And if you have a full roll or a higher grade, the total can add up. So, while it's not the rarest coin out there, the 1972 D Kennedy half-dollar is still a neat piece of American history and worth holding on to if it's in great shape. Next up, the 1968 D Kennedy half-dollar. Could this coin be worth more than its face value? Let's find out first. A bit of history. The Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy. By 1968, these coins were minted in Denver, indicated by the D mint mark. Notably, the 1968 D coins contain 40% silver, making them valuable not just to collectors, but also to silver investors. Now, let's talk value. In circulated condition, the 1968 D Kennedy half-dollar is generally worth around $5, primarily due to its silver content. However, if you have an uncirculated coin, especially one graded MS-65, it could fetch approximately $21. Higher grades like MS-66 can command prices around $56, and MS-67 coins have been known to sell for around $60 to sell for up to $584, but here's where it gets exciting. Exceptional specimens have fetched impressive sums at auctions. For instance, a 1968 D Kennedy half-dollar graded MS-67 plus sold for $4,920 in January 2022. Even more astonishing, an MS-68 graded coin reached a value of approximately $15,000 in July 2023. Errors can also significantly increase a coin's value. Look out for the tripled die obverse TDOFS-014 error, which features noticeable tripling on the obverse side. An MS-64 graded example of this error sold for $299 in 2012. Other errors, like triple clip and partial collar strikes, have also fetched higher prices. If you believe you have a valuable 1968 D Kennedy half-dollar, consider getting it graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. Grading can authenticate your coin and provide an accurate assessment of its condition, which is crucial for determining its market value. To sum up, while many 1968 D Kennedy half-dollars are worth their silver content, exceptional coins, whether due to pristine condition or unique errors, can be worth thousands. So, check your collections. You might just have a hidden gem. Next up, the 1988 P Kennedy half-dollar, especially when it's seen better days. Minted in Philadelphia in 1988, over 13 million of these coins were produced. Designed by Gilroy Roberts and Frank Gasparo, the coin features President John F. Kennedy on the obverse and the presidential seal on the reverse. In circulated or damaged condition, the 1988 P Kennedy half-dollar typically holds minimal value. According to coin trackers, such coins are worth around 50 cents, which is their face value. However, uncirculated examples can fetch higher prices. For instance, coins graded MS-64 may be valued around $7, while those in MS-65 condition can reach approximately $9. Remarkably, a 1988 P Kennedy half-dollar graded MS-67 sold for $480 at a heritage auction in 2019. In summary, while a damaged 1988 P Kennedy half-dollar may not hold significant monetary value, pristine, uncirculated versions can be quite valuable. Always consider the coin's condition. and consult with a professional for an accurate assessment. Next up, the 1974 Kennedy half dollar without a mint mark. Let's talk about how much it's worth today, and why collectors still care about this common coin. This coin was struck in Philadelphia, which is why you won't see a mint mark under Kennedy's neck. Over 201 million of these were minted, so they're definitely not rare. But are they valuable? In normal circulated condition, that means it's been used in everyday transactions and has typical wear. The 1974 Kennedy half dollar usually sells for about 75 cents to $1.50 USD. It's worth more than face value, mainly because it's no longer commonly seen in circulation, and some collectors want a clean example. However, it's not silver. It's made of a copper-nickel-clad composition. Unless your 1974 half dollar is in uncirculated or mint state condition, we're talking MS-65 or higher, it won't fetch big bucks. In those top grades, it might go for $10 to $25. And if it's been graded by PCGS or NGC, possibly a bit more. So, if you've got a 1974 Kennedy half dollar without a mint mark in average condition, it's a nice piece of history, but don't expect a windfall. Still, every coin has a story, and that's what makes collecting so fun. Next up, the 1985 D Kennedy half dollar in extra fine XF condition. Let's explore its current market worth and what makes this coin noteworthy. Minted at the Denver Mint, the 1985 D Kennedy half dollar boasts a mintage of approximately 19.8 million coins. While this figure suggests a relatively common coin, its value can vary based on condition and collector demand. In extra fine XF condition, the 1985 D Kennedy half dollar is typically valued around $1. This grade indicates that the coin has been circulated but retains sharp details with minor wear. Collectors often seek coins with full luster and minimal wear. The 1985 D features the iconic portrait of President John F. Kennedy on the obverse and the presidential seal on the reverse. While XF examples are modestly priced, higher-grade specimens can command significantly more. For instance, coins graded MS-67 have been known to fetch prices upwards of $50,000 at auction. Remember, the value of a coin is influenced by its condition, rarity, and collector interest. Always consult reputable sources and consider professional grading for an accurate assessment.
Composition and was part of regular circulation. Now, the 1974 Kennedy half dollar is generally considered a common coin. Over 200 million of these were produced at the Philadelphia Mint alone. However, collectors are still interested in them, especially if the coin is in high-grade uncirculated condition, proof, or shows any unusual errors. But for a regular 1974 Kennedy half dollar with no mint mark in average, circulated condition meaning it shows wear, but is still fully readable, it doesn't fetch a premium price. As of 2025, the typical market value for a circulated 1974 Kennedy half dollar without a mint mark ranges from 50 cents to $1. This is primarily due to its face value and the lack of silver content. Uncirculated examples coins that have never been used in commerce might sell for $2 to $5, depending on condition and whether they've been graded by a professional service. So while the 1974 no mint mark Kennedy half dollar is not particularly rare or valuable in average condition, it still holds historical and collector value. It's a great starter coin for new collectors or those interested in U.S. history. Next up, the 1968 D Kennedy half dollar, a coin that may look ordinary, especially when it's dirty or worn, but can still hold surprising value. The 1968 D Kennedy half dollar was struck at the Denver Mint and is composed of 40% silver, a composition used from 1965 through 1970. This coin features the familiar portrait of President John F. Kennedy on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. While these coins were minted in large numbers, their silver content keeps them in demand among collectors and investors alike. Now, we're not talking about pristine, uncirculated coins today. We're focusing on a well-worn, dirty example, the kind you might find in old coin jars, estate sales, or inherited collections. The condition we're discussing would be classified as circulated possibly with grime, discoloration, and moderate to heavy wear. As of today, the average silver melt value of a 1968 D Kennedy half dollar is around $4 to $5 USD based on the current silver spot price. However, some collectors may be willing to pay a bit more, up to $6 or $7, if the coin retains decent detail or is part of a larger lot. Keep in mind, condition is key for numismatic value, but for coins like this, silver content usually sets the floor price. Even in poor condition, these coins are worth holding on to, especially in bulk. Though most 1968 D Kennedy half dollars are common, there are a few error varieties that could boost value significantly, such as doubled dies or off-center strikes. If you suspect your coin may have an error, it's worth having it checked by a professional or submitting it to a coin grading service. So if you have a dirty old 1968 D Kennedy half dollar lying around, don't toss it. At the very least, its silver content makes it worth more than face value, and potentially much more if it has any collectible features. Next up, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar. Specifically, we're going to take a closer look at the value of the 1973 Kennedy half dollar with no mint mark, in good condition, and its current market value. The 1973 Kennedy half dollar is part of the series that was minted to honor President John F. Kennedy. It was produced in relatively large numbers, but there's an interesting factor about the 1973 coin: its lack of a mint mark. For those who aren't familiar, mint marks are used to identify where a coin was struck, and for the 1973 half dollar, there were coins minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. However, the Philadelphia Mint did not place a mint mark on coins struck there in that year. In terms of value, a 1973 Kennedy half dollar in good condition, which typically means having minimal wear with clear details and a nice overall appearance, can fetch anywhere between $3 to $5 in today's market. This value is primarily based on the coin's silver content, which is about 40%. This makes the coin still valuable beyond its face value. However, the value can vary depending on specific market conditions, such as the price of silver or the coin's condition. If the coin is in exceptional condition, such as MS65 or higher, meaning it's nearly mint or flawless, the value could rise significantly, possibly reaching around $10 to $15 or even higher. The most important factor affecting the value of the 1973 Kennedy half dollar is the price of silver. Because the coin contains 40% silver, fluctuations in the silver market can directly impact how much collectors and investors are willing to pay for it. Additionally, coin condition, rarity, and demand within the numismatic market will play a role in determining its overall worth. While the 1973 Kennedy half dollar without a mint mark may not be one of the rarest or most expensive coins in circulation, it's still a valuable piece due to its silver content and historical significance. In good condition, you can expect it to be worth around $3 to $5, with the potential for higher value depending on its quality. If you're a collector or just interested in learning more about coins, keep an eye out for these 1973 Kennedy half dollars. They might just surprise you with their value. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of coins and collectibles. Got a coin you're curious about? Drop it in the comments. I might feature it in a future video. See you next time. Happy collecting!